Oh, my God. My God. At last, I've found the courage to write down everything that has happened to me. But will I be able to finish? Will I have the resolve? It's all so strange, so unbelievable, so incomprehensible, so utterly mad. Had I not been absolutely certain that I truly witnessed it all, had I not known that my reasoning was clear, my perception unclouded, and the relentless sequence of my observations uninterrupted, I would have thought myself a victim of hallucination, a plaything of bizarre visions. But in the end, who can say for sure? I am now in a sanatorium. I came here of my own will, out of caution, out of fear. Only one person in the world knows my story, the doctor here. I intend to write it down. Why? I'm not entirely sure. Perhaps to rid myself of it, for it suffocates me like an unbearable nightmare. Here it is. I have always been a solitary man, a dreamer, something of a hermit philosopher. Kind-hearted, content with little, never angry at people, never resentful toward God. I've always lived alone, feeling a strange discomfort in the presence of others. Why? I don't know. I don't avoid company. I can converse, dine with friends, but if their presence lingers too long, even the dearest among them begin to weary me, irritate me, and I feel a growing, tormenting urge for them to leave or for me to leave and be alone. This urge is more than a desire, it's a pressing necessity. If I were forced to remain among people for too long, even just to hear their voices without listening to their words, something would surely happen to me. What exactly? Who knows? Perhaps a simple fainting spell? Quite possibly. I love solitude so deeply that I cannot bear anyone sleeping under the same roof as me. Paris is a constant agony. I die inwardly, and my body and nerves suffer from the endless crowd that swarms around me even in sleep. The sleep of others is more oppressive to me than their speech. I find no rest when I feel, no, sense the life behind the wall, interrupted only by that regular eclipse of consciousness. Why am I like this? Who can say? Perhaps the reason is simple. I tire too quickly from everything outside myself. And I'm not alone in this. There are two kinds of people in the world. Some need others, they are entertained, soothed, fulfilled by them. Solitude exhausts them, like climbing a glacier or crossing a desert. Others are the opposite. People drain them, irritate them, stifle them, while solitude calms, liberates thought, and offers true rest. It's a common psychological phenomenon. Some are gifted with an external life, others with an internal one. My attention to the outer world is brief and quickly depleted, and once it reaches its limit, I feel a heavy malaise, both in body and mind. That's why I've always been attached to inanimate things. They became living beings to me. My home turned into a world where I lived a secluded, active life among furniture, familiar trinkets, objects that pleased my eye like friendly faces. I gradually filled the house with them, adorned it, and among them I felt content, peaceful, happy, as if embraced by a beloved woman whose gentle caresses had become a quiet, sweet necessity. I built this house in a beautiful garden, separated from the road. It stood near the city gate, and in town I could find company whenever I wished. My servants slept in a separate cottage at the far end of the garden, enclosed by a high wall. In the silence of my hidden dwelling, nestled among the foliage of tall trees, the darkness of night was so soothing, so full of peace, that each evening I delayed going to bed just to enjoy it a little longer. That day, the city theatre was staging Sigurd. I heard that enchanting musical drama for the first time and was deeply moved. I walked home briskly. Music still echoed in my ears, and enchanting visions danced before my eyes. The night was pitch black, so dark I could barely make out the road and nearly fell into a ditch several times. From the city gate to my house was about a kilometer, perhaps a bit more, 20 minutes of calm walking. It was 1 o'clock, maybe 1:30. The sky was gradually lightening, and finally the moon appeared, a sorrowful moon in its last quarter. The first quarter moon, rising around 4 or 5 in the evening, is cheerful, bright, silvery. But the waning moon, rising after midnight, is reddish, gloomy, unsettling, the true moon of the witch's Sabbath. All lovers of nocturnal walks know this. The young moon, even if just a sliver, casts a faint but joyful light, drawing sharp shadows on the ground. The waning moon emits a deathly glow, dim, barely forming shadows. I saw the dark mass of my garden in the distance, and for some reason, the thought of entering it made me uneasy. I slowed my pace. It was warm. The cluster of trees looked like a tomb where my house lay buried. I opened the gate and stepped into the long alley of sycamores. It led to the front entrance, and the branches, arching overhead, formed a high tunnel that cut through the dark greenery and curved around lawns with flower beds that, in the dusk, appeared as oval patches of indistinct hues. As I approached the house, a strange unease gripped me. I stopped. Not a sound. Not even a rustle in the leaves. What's happening to me? I thought. For 10 years I had returned home this way and never felt the slightest anxiety. I wasn't afraid. I had never feared the night. The sight of a man, a thief, a robber, would have enraged me, and I would have attacked him without hesitation. Besides, I was armed. I had a revolver. But I didn't touch it, determined to overcome the rising sense of fear. What was it? A premonition? That mysterious foreboding that seizes a person before encountering the inexplicable? Perhaps. Who knows? The closer I came, the more I trembled. When I reached the wall, the closed shutters of the large house, I realized I needed to wait a few minutes before entering. I sat on the bench beneath the living room windows. Slightly shivering, I leaned my head against the wall and watched the shadows of the trees. In those first moments, I noticed nothing unusual. A noise rang in my ears, but that happens often. Sometimes it seems I hear the roar of trains, the tolling of bells, the murmur of a crowd. Soon the sound grew sharper, clearer, more distinct. I had been mistaken. It wasn't the usual rush of blood in my temples, not that inner hum that sometimes rings in my ears. No, these were peculiar, though faint, rustlings, undoubtedly coming from inside my house. Through the walls I heard a continuous tapping, more a whisper than a noise, a strange shifting of mass, as if someone were gently pushing, dragging, rearranging, hauling all my furniture. Oh, I hesitated for quite some time, doubting the reliability of my senses. But when I pressed my ear to the shutter to better catch the strange movement within, I became certain. Something unusual, something inexplicable was happening inside. I wasn't afraid, but I was, how to put it precisely, shaken. I didn't load my revolver, having guessed rightly, as it turned out, that there was no need. I simply waited. I waited a long time, unable to take a step. My mind was clear, but wildly agitated. I stood there, listening to the rising noise, which at times swelled to such intensity that it seemed to roar with impatience, fury, some incomprehensible outrage. Suddenly, ashamed of my hesitation, I snatched my keyring, chose the right one, inserted it into the lock, turned it twice, and flung the door open with force. It slammed against the wall. The impact rang out like a gunshot, and was answered by a terrifying crash that rolled through the house from top to bottom. It was so sudden, so dreadful, so deafening that I stepped back instinctively and drew my revolver, though I still felt its utter uselessness. I waited again, but only briefly. Now I could clearly hear an extraordinary clatter on the staircase, across the parquet, over the carpets, not footsteps, not the sound of shoes, but the clanging of crutches, wooden and iron. The iron ones rang like cymbals. And then I saw, standing in the doorway, my large reading chair. It was lurching forward, leaving the house. It rolled into the garden. Behind it came the armchairs from the drawing room. Then, like crocodiles, the low sofas crept along on their stubby legs, followed by all my chairs, leaping like goats, and finally the stools, trotting like rabbits. Oh, what a sight it was! I slipped into the trees and crouched there, never taking my eyes off the procession of my furniture. It was all leaving piece by piece, some slowly, some swiftly, depending on their size and weight. My piano, my grand piano, galloped past like a maddened stallion, and music throbbed in its belly. Across the sand, like ants, rushed the small objects, brushes, crystal, glasses, and the moonlight danced on them like fireflies. Fabrics slithered, spreading like puddles, like cuttlefish. I saw my writing desk, a rare piece from the 18th century. Inside it were all my letters, the entire history of my heart, a long-suffered story. The photographs were there too. And suddenly, the fear vanished. I lunged forward and grabbed the desk, as one grabs a thief, as one catches a fleeing woman. But it moved with irresistible force, and despite all my effort, despite my rage, I couldn't even slow it down. Struggling against that dreadful power, I fell to the ground. It dragged me across the sand, and the objects behind began to trample me, bruising, breaking my legs. When I finally let go, they passed over my body like a cavalry charge over a fallen soldier. At last, mad with terror, I crawled off the path and hid again beneath the trees. From there I watched the smallest, most modest items depart, those I barely remembered, yet they were mine. And then, in the distance, in the apartment now hollow and echoing like all empty houses, I heard the dreadful slamming of doors. They banged throughout the house until the last one, the front door, the very one I, fool that I am, had opened, closed behind them. And so I fled as well. I ran to the city, and only on its streets did I feel relief, passing late-night wanderers. I rang the bell at the hotel where I was known, brushed the dust from my clothes as best I could, and claimed I had lost my keyring, including the key to the garden, where my servants slept in their cottage behind the wall that protected my fruits and vegetables from nocturnal thieves. I buried myself in bed. But I couldn't sleep. I listened to my heartbeat and waited for dawn. I had already arranged for my staff to be notified before sunrise, and at 7 o'clock my valet knocked at the door. His face was pale and blank. "Sir, something terrible happened last night," he said. "What is it?" "Your entire household has been robbed, sir. Everything. Down to the last trinket." The news delighted me. Why? Who knows? I remained composed, confident I could conceal everything, say nothing, bury it all in memory like a dreadful secret. I replied, "So it was those same thieves who stole my keys. We must inform the police at once. I'll get dressed and we'll go together." The investigation lasted 5 months. Nothing was found. Not a single trinket, not the slightest trace. Ah, damn it. If I had told them what I knew, if I had spoken, they would have locked me away. Me, not the thieves, but the man who had seen such a thing. Oh, I know how to keep silent. But I didn't refurnish the house. It would have been pointless. It would all begin again. I didn't want to return. And I never did. I never saw it again. I went to Paris, took a room in a hotel, and consulted doctors. My nerves had begun to trouble me after that night. They recommended travel. I followed their advice. I began with Italy. The southern sun did me good. For half a year I wandered, from Genoa to Venice, from Venice to Florence, from Florence to Rome, from Rome to Naples. Then, Sicily, with its landscapes and monuments, relics of Greeks and Normans. I journeyed through Africa, peacefully crossing that vast yellow desert where camels, gazelles, and nomadic Arabs roam, where in the clear, transparent air no hallucination haunts you neither by day nor by night. Then I returned to France via Marseille. But despite the Provençal cheerfulness, the dimmer sky already saddened me. Back on native soil, I felt what a recovering patient feels when a dull ache reminds him, the illness is not gone. I went back to Paris. After a month, I grew weary of it. Autumn had come, and before winter set in, I decided to travel through Normandy, a place I had never visited. Naturally, I began with Rouen. For a full week, enchanted and amazed, I wandered through that medieval city, a true museum of Gothic marvels. One afternoon, around 4 o'clock, I wandered into a street so strange it seemed unreal, a narrow lane where a river flowed, black as ink, bearing the name Oderobec. I was drawn in by the whimsical, time-worn appearance of the houses, but my attention was soon diverted by a row of shops, each crammed with random objects, lined up one after another. Oh, those repulsive dealers in bric-a-brac had chosen their location well on this fantastical street, above the gloomy waters, beneath sharp slate and tile roofs where ancient weather vanes still creaked in the wind. Deep within the shadowy interiors of these shops, carved chests were piled high, alongside Rouen, Nevis, and Maustiers faience, painted oak statues, Jesuses, Madonnas, saints, ecclesiastical ornaments, altar frames, vestments, even sacred vessels and an old gilded wooden tabernacle that God himself seemed to have abandoned long ago. What strange dens these were, hidden inside towering, cavernous houses, stuffed from cellar to attic with objects whose lives had long since ended, things that had outlived their owners, their era, their fashion, only to be bought up by new generations as rare curiosities. In this antique quarter, my love for objects was rekindled. I wandered from shop to shop, hopping across makeshift bridges, 4 rotting planks laid over the foul stream of the Oderobec. Good heavens, what horror! Beneath one of the vaulted ceilings, so cluttered it resembled the entrance to a catacomb, a tomb for furniture, I spotted one of my finest cabinets. I approached, trembling so violently I couldn't bring myself to touch it. I reached out, hesitated. But it was unmistakably mine, a Louis XIII cabinet, a unique piece that anyone who had seen it once could never forget. And then, peering deeper into the gloom of the gallery, I recognized 3 of my armchairs, upholstered in the finest tapestry, and farther still, 2 of my tables from the time of Henry II, so rare that people had come from Paris just to see them. Just imagine my state of mind. I moved forward, my legs barely obeyed me, I was dying of emotion, but I kept walking. I am, after all, a brave man. I walked like a knight from some dark age, entering an enchanted dwelling. With each step, I discovered more of my belongings, chandeliers, books, paintings, fabrics, weapons, everything except the desk with my letters. That I did not see. I descended into cellars, climbed to upper floors. I was alone. I called out, no one answered. Alone, in a house vast and winding as a labyrinth, where not a soul stirred. Night fell, and I sank into the darkness onto one of my chairs. I didn't want to leave. From time to time I called out, "Hey, hey, is anyone there?" An hour must have passed before I heard footsteps, soft, slow. I nearly fled, but calmed myself, called again, and saw light in a neighboring room. "Who's there?" asked a voice. "A customer," I replied. "It's too late to be browsing shops. I've been waiting over an hour. You can come back tomorrow." Tomorrow I leave Rouen. I didn't dare approach, and he didn't come closer. I saw only the light illuminating a tapestry where two angels hovered above a battlefield strewn with corpses. That tapestry was mine too. I said. Well then, are you coming? He replied. I'm waiting for you. I stood and walked toward him. In the center of a large room stood a tiny man, phenomenally fat, an appalling specimen. He had a sparse, uneven beard of yellowish hairs, and not a single hair on his head. Not one. He raised a candle high to see me better, and his bald skull appeared like a small moon in that vast room filled with antique furniture. His face was wrinkled and bloated, his eyes mere slits. I bought 3 of my own chairs, paid a large sum on the spot, and gave only my hotel room number. The chairs were to be delivered the next morning at 9. Then I left. He politely escorted me to the door. I went straight to the Chief Police Commissioner and told him about the theft and the discovery I had just made. He immediately sent a telegram to the prosecutor handling the case and asked me to wait for a reply. Within an hour, the response arrived, entirely satisfactory. I'll order his arrest and interrogation at once, said the commissioner. He may sense danger and remove your items from the shop. Would you care to dine and return in 2 hours? He'll be here, and I'll question him in your presence. With pleasure, sir. Thank you kindly. I returned to the hotel and dined better than I had expected. I was pleased. He was caught. 2 hours later, I returned. The commissioner was waiting. What can I say, sir, he told me. We didn't find your man. My agents missed him. Ah. I felt faint. But, you found his house? I asked. Of course. It's under surveillance until the owner returns. But he's vanished. Vanished? Vanished. He usually spends evenings with his neighbor, Madame Bedouin, a fellow dealer in antiques, a rather peculiar old witch. But tonight she hasn't seen him and knows nothing. We'll have to wait until tomorrow. I left. Oh, how dark, how haunting, how full of dread those ruined streets seemed to me. I slept poorly, waking often from nightmares. In the morning, not wanting to appear too agitated or impatient, I waited until 10 before going to the police. The dealer had not returned. His shop remained closed. The commissioner said, I've taken all necessary steps. The court is informed. We'll go together to the shop and open it. You'll identify your belongings. We rode in a carriage. Outside the shop stood policemen and a locksmith. The door was opened. Inside, I saw no cabinet, no chairs, no tables, none of the furniture that had once filled my home. Nothing. And the night before, I couldn't take a step without stumbling over something of mine. The commissioner was astonished and at first looked at me with suspicion. My God, sir, I said, the disappearance of these items strangely coincides with the disappearance of the dealer. He smirked. Exactly. You shouldn't have bought and paid for those chairs yesterday. That's what scared him off. I replied. What I don't understand is this. In every spot where my furniture used to stand, there's something else now. Ah, the commissioner responded, he had the whole night, and surely he's not working alone. The house is almost certainly connected to the neighboring ones. Don't worry, sir, I'll pursue this matter with full resolve. The scoundrel slipped away for now, but we're watching his den. Oh, my heart, my poor heart, how it pounded. I stayed in Rouen for 15 days. The man never returned. Damn it all. What could have frightened him or caught him off guard? And then, on the morning of the 16th day, I received a strange letter from my gardener, the caretaker of my looted and deserted home. Sir, I have the honor to inform you that something inexplicable occurred last night. Neither we nor the police can make sense of it. All the furniture has returned, every single piece, down to the smallest item. The house is now exactly as it was before the theft. It's enough to make one lose their mind. It happened during the night from Friday to Saturday. The garden paths are torn up, as if the furniture was dragged along them from the gate to the door. Just like on the day it disappeared. We await your return, sir. Your humble servant, Philippe Rodin. No. No, never. I won't go back. I took the letter to the Rouen commissioner. That was a clever return, he said. Let's be patient. We'll catch that fellow any day now. But they didn't catch him. No. They didn't. And now I fear him like a wild beast set loose upon me. He's uncatchable. Uncatchable, that fiend with a skull like a moon. They'll never lay hands on him. He won't go home. Why would he? No one can encounter him but me, and I refuse. I refuse. I refuse. I refuse. And if he does return, if he reappears in his shop, who will prove that my furniture was ever there? There's no evidence, only my word, and I feel it's already beginning to sound suspect. Ah, no. This state became unbearable. I could no longer keep everything I'd seen locked inside. I couldn't live like others do, constantly afraid that it would all begin again. I went to the chief physician of this asylum and told him everything. He questioned me at length, then said, "Would you be willing, sir, to stay here for a while?" "Gladly, sir." "Are you a man of means?" "Yes, sir." "Would you prefer a private wing?" "Yes." "Do you wish to receive visitors?" "No, no, no one. That man from Rouen might try to take revenge. He could follow me even here. And so, for 3 months now, I've been alone. Completely alone. I'm almost calm. I fear only one thing, that the antique dealer might lose his mind and be placed here. Because even prison is no guarantee. Ladies and gentlemen, subscribe to the channel. Share your impressions and thoughts in the comments. I'd be delighted to hear from you.